Grief is a journey, not a destination. But some moments of that journey, like the arrival of a new year, can feel impossibly heavy, reminding us of the absence of those we love. For those of us that have lost a child, the turning of the calendar brings not only the hope of new beginnings, but also the painful reminder of everything that never will be. Today, we're going to talk about the depth of this grief, the unique challenges of facing life after loss, and how there is still hope for your new year. You're not alone, friend. If you're grieving the death of your child and you want the steps that lead to believing with confidence that life is still worth living, then you're in the right place. Hello, I'm Teresa, a grief mentor. That's been where you are, and I teach grieving moms like you how to navigate life after child loss. If you're ready to take a step of courage and build a solid foundation to live with hope and purpose, then I'm here to teach you how. Are you ready for what God has for you? Then I'm ready to teach you. One thing I knew for sure when Andrew left this earth is that I was way in over my head. The magnitude of child loss is not describable with words. It completely stopped my life. I existed in a shell of a body that I didn't recognize anymore. Sound familiar? The mountain that lay before me was impossible to climb, and I needed help. Lots and lots of help. And when I emerged from the devastation of Andrew's death, I had a burning desire inside of my heart to provide for others what I needed in my darkest hour. I felt like I was blazing a trail through the wilderness. Everything was so difficult. Did it have to be this way? I knew that many parents had walked this path before me, but where were they? Why didn't someone have the resources that I needed? Why did I feel so alone? And why was it so difficult for others to listen to my broken heart? No. The answer is no, friend. It doesn't have to be this way. What would it take for you to say yes to join me in the second live grief masterclass? You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. There's nothing I want more for you, friend, than to experience the life-giving hope that comes from knowing who Jesus really is. The confusion and chaos of grief rips away all of the feel-good parts of faith. I can see your head nodding in agreement with me right now. When life doesn't turn out like we expect, faith gets very real or disappears in the disappointment. Here's the truth. There's nothing special about me. I'm just a girl that said, "Here I am, Lord, send me." The Grief Masterclass is rooted and grounded in the Word of God. What you will learn in this class came at a great cost to me. A cost that I would have never been willing to pay if it had been left up to me. What's keeping you from signing up for the class? I understand if you have to work, I get it. But if you sign up, you'll receive the replay. And then you'll have 2 days of valuable knowledge that'll help you see the blind spots in your grief. That's right. We all have blind spots in our grief, and we need someone with wisdom to be able to point those out to us. Take that step of courage, learn how to build a foundation, and live with confidence. Register for the Masterclass, and while you're there, sign up to spend that extra 45 minutes with me. It'll be a time where you can get to know me in a more personal way, and you'll be able to unmute your mic so that we can have a conversation and go deeper into the topics of the Masterclass. Now, let's get into what I have to teach you today. But first, I want to share a resource with you. Like you, I was desperate for someone to understand me and my thoughts that I could not express in words after Andrew left this earth. I met a person named Levi Lusko. No, I did not meet him in person. And honestly, I don't remember the events that brought about me coming to know who he was. But Levi is a pastor and an author, and his daughter, Linya, died suddenly in 2012 from an asthma attack. It was December 20th, and she was at her grandparents' home, and they were wrapping Christmas gifts. And by the time the ambulance arrived, her heart had stopped beating, and she died in her father's arms. Levi and his wife Jenny have 4 other children. And this is what he said: "The death of your child will either smash you against the rocks, or you'll stand on the rocks and be who God called you to be through the pain." I never forgot that quote. Levi wrote a book called Through the Eyes of the Lion in honor of Lenya. And I've read that book, and I've listened to it actually more than once. I come across it early in my grief journey, and I hung on so many of his words. For such a young man at the time, he had great wisdom into the insight of how to not only manage grief for himself and his wife, but for his other remaining children at home. So if you've lost a young child and you still have children in your home, Jennifer, this is for you, then this book is a must read for you. I highly recommend it. He gave me words for my grief when I had none. One of the greatest takeaways was how he coined the phrase, quote, "Sunday's coming." It's a mantra that I still use today. And it's a reminder that Friday happened, but Sunday's coming when I will get to see Andrew again. If you are on social media, his account is worth following. He's on Instagram and Facebook. And I just recently heard him say, people will come up to him and say, "How did you survive the death of your child?" And his response was, "I have no idea, except for the grace of God." Grief takes many forms, but the loss of the child is often considered the most profound of all. It's a grief that feels so unnatural. It's as if the order of life itself has been disrupted. For grieving parents, this type of loss doesn't just leave an empty space in your heart. It changes the very fabric of who you are, how you see the world, and how you move through it. And as we enter a new year, it's easy to feel that this grief will never end. But I want to point out something to you today, friend. It's important to remember that grief is not linear. It does not follow a clear path or timeline. Instead, it ebbs and flows, sometimes overwhelming you, sometimes feeling a little more distant. And then suddenly a moment like the first day of the new year hits, or the 4th day of the new year hits. And the weight of that loss can feel fresh and new again. So what does it mean to face the new year after the death of your child with hope? It's more than just a new calendar. It's a reminder that life continues without them. And that can be so disorienting and painful because time doesn't stop. It just keeps marching on. A new year traditionally symbolizes new beginnings, fresh starts, and possibilities. But for grieving parents, the reality is far more complex. So if you're new in your grief, I want you to really pay attention to today's episode. Grief sits at the door of anything that suggests a new beginning, because it's just another reminder that your child is not going to be there to experience it with you. The celebration of a new year can bring those sharp feelings of loneliness and anger and even guilt. Maybe you feel as if everyone around you is excited to embrace the future. They're going to all the New Year parties, celebrating New Year, new hope, new change. And you can't seem to find the energy or the desire to do the same. Is that you, friend? The calendar turning feels like an opportunity for change, but more like a painful marking of time that has passed without your child in it. And amidst all of the movement that goes with the new year, right on the heels of Christmas, it can feel impossible to find space to be able to manage your grief. So what do you do about it? In the silence of the new year, when you're reflecting on what's past and what's ahead, give yourself permission to grieve. There's no right or wrong way to do that. And there's certainly no timeline that dictates when you should be, quote, over it, or the fact that you're going to move on. No, friend. The goal isn't to move on from your grief, but to find ways to live alongside it, to integrate the memory of your child into the very fabric of your life as you know it now. Though it be different, it still has meaning. You will never stop grieving the death of your child, but that doesn't mean that there's no room for healing, for growth, or moments of peace that edge out the moments of despair. when you get the tools that you need to start embracing your life with hope, living in that space of confidence that you're going to make it. I want to share a few stories with you today from parents that have lost a child and how they have approached the new year. This mom said, when the new year comes, it's a reminder that another year has gone by without her. The first few years were the hardest, and I couldn't bring myself to celebrate anything. But now I try to honor her memory, even in small ways, like lighting a candle, looking at her picture, writing her a letter about how much I miss her. Some days are harder than others, but I've learned to allow myself to feel whatever I feel without judgment. Another mom said New Year's Eve used to be a big family celebration for us. Now it's quieter and more reflective. We don't make resolutions, but we do focus on memories, what she loved, what she brought to our lives, and how we can carry that forward. It's not easy, but it feels like the right thing for us, and it's how we stay connected to her. Grief is deeply personal, friend, and there's no one way to grieve. But what is universal for all of us is the love that remains for our child, the love that never goes away. Even as the world shifts and the clock keeps ticking, the love for our child is the constant that never changes. Facing a new year does not mean, quote, getting over the loss of your child. You'll never be the same person that you were before the loss, and that's okay. Grief changes you in ways that you cannot predict, but that doesn't mean you are forever lost in it. It's okay to have moments of joy, moments of laughter, moments where you are truly living in the present. It doesn't diminish the love for your child, and it doesn't erase the grief. It's part of the journey of learning how to live in a world where they are no longer physically with you, but their love and memory remain. As we face the new year together, let's focus on the steps that we need to move forward while embracing with everything we have in us the life and love that we shared with our children. I used to love to get a new calendar. I would shop and buy a calendar for my office, for my kitchen, for my purse, anywhere that I could put a new calendar because it meant a new beginning, something fresh and exciting to look forward to. I'm one of those people that buy a planner that has all the steps in it to create a plan for your life for the whole upcoming year per quarter. Reflection was the name of the game. Pages and pages of reflection and goal setting, bucket list and dreams, all written out because this is my natural bent. However, that went away for several years. To even look at a calendar made me turn away because the thought of time passing without Andrea in it was too much to bear. If that's you right now, I get it, friend, and that's okay. I want to remind you what God says about your grief journey and life here on this earth. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. Lamentations 3:23. Friend, God's love and mercy are constantly renewed each day, offering a fresh start and hope no matter what challenges that you face. Let Him carry the weight of your grief and refresh your soul today. Come sit with me on January 13th and 14th and see what God has for you. Register from the email that I sent you on Tuesday or from the show notes of today's episode. And that's all I have for you today. So until next time, take care. Friend, stop what you're doing right now and register for the Live Grief Masterclass. Find the link in the show notes or the link in the email that I sent you if you're a Grief Mentor Insider. If you cannot access any of those links, reach out to me at Teresa@thegriefmentor.com and I will personally send you the link. I cannot wait to meet you.